No success in the world can compensate for failure in the home. That's why ClubWealth was founded, to help driven, successful, and busy real estate agents like you double their business while building a strong, balanced home life. Join us each week as high-producing agents and team leaders share their stories and unpack the principles and systems they've used to double, triple, and even quadruple their business while enjoying greater quality of life. And now, here's the latest episode of ClubWealth TV.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We have a very special episode because we are sharing a conversation in which Michael was interviewed on another industry podcast. So we're going to jump to that in just a second. First, want to just thank everyone for sharing the show. We so appreciate all the great feedback that we get, both in the Facebook group for the live broadcast and on Apple Podcasts for the reviews and ratings. We really appreciate everyone that takes their time to leave a rating, to give a shout out to one of our amazing guests in their rating and their review so that other people know and get a sense of what the show is like and what to expect and who the guests are. We appreciate everyone that shares it with another agent or another colleague in the business. And with that being said, let's jump into this very special episode.
All right. Today on the show, we have Michael Hellickson from ClubWealth.com. Let me tell you about Michael. Now, Michael has been selling real estate for over 20 years, listing and selling over 100 homes per month and carrying over 750 active and pending listings at one point. He began his real estate career in 1991, has been among the top 1% of all agents nationally before he even graduated high school. At the pinnacle of his sales career, Michael and his team were literally number one nationwide out of over 1 million real estate agents and teams. In addition to posting big numbers in retail and REO, Michael is considered by most to be the number one short sale expert in the world. I'm going to say that again. He is considered to be the number one short sale expert in the world. During his career, Michael has spoken to thousands upon thousands of agents and organizations nationwide. He's been featured on several national television and radio programs, including Glenn Beck, CNBC, Dave Ramsey, Fox Business Network, among many other local and regional programs. He is also the founder and president of ClubWealth, coaching and consulting. Unique in the industry, every ClubWealth coach has sold more real estate than the agents or brokers they coach. And that is an amazing statistic. Every single one of their coaches has sold more than the people that they coach themselves. And I want everybody to go check out ClubWealth.com. I love ClubWealth. I'm a huge fan, and I want all of our listeners to, of course, go check it out, see what the coaches offer. But Michael, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh, what a great introduction. Thank you so much for that. When you said 1991, I just cringed. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm old. It just dawned on me, like 1991, there's probably people watching this that weren't even born then.
It's funny. Like, I agree. I just turned 44, which is not, old, but it's like, okay, now I actually have to exercise 5 days a week. Like in the past, I could get away with maybe 1 day a week, maybe even skipping a week. Now it's every meal I eat I have to watch what I eat. I have to exercise because everything counts now. It's, my body is not responding the way it used to.
I know, right? Oh my gosh. When we get injured, we feel it for a lot longer. So.
Well, I would love to tell our listeners, you have such an impressive and storied background in real estate. I would really love to go all the way back to the beginning and talk more about how you got started, why you got started, how you grew your business, and then eventually how you created ClubWealth. And
sure.
I want to talk about that. So go ahead.
Well, so it started off, when I was a kid, I thought about, I was always a pretty driven kid. I wanted to make money and I wanted to figure out not just how to make money, but I wanted to figure out how to really build wealth. How do I get to a point where I can have, wealth that allows me to not have to work but continue to have a great life. And I thought to myself, well, where do people make and hold their wealth? And it's real estate, right? Well, then I thought about, how do I get there? If I want to buy real estate, I got to make some money, right? I'm going to have to get some money rolling in. And so what careers are going to offer me the most money? And this is a kid, you got to remember here, I'm, 17 years old at the time. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to go to college. That doesn't sound like fun. Go to school and, go to all these years of school, come out with hundreds, if not, millions of dollars in debt. or not millions, but I know, professional, like dentists and doctors. Some of these guys have $750,000 to $1 million in debt.
Yeah.
And I just thought that just doesn't make any sense to me. And then you get out of school at 38 years old and finally get to start your career. That's a dumb idea.
Exactly.
So sales made sense. I thought, well, heck, okay. So a lot of people make great money in sales. So I thought, well, why don't I go into real estate sales? It's a high ticket item and it's related to the investing that I want to do. And so why not do that? And well, I guess it worked. So when I was in high school, my junior year of high school, I took as many credits as I could, went to summer school between my junior and senior year so that I could get all my credits done. So all I had to do was go to school that first semester senior year so that I could get my real estate license while I was in high school.
Wow.
And so I turned 18 in January. And by March, I was the top listing agent in my office. And let me tell you,
at 17.
I was 18 by this point. So I turned 18 in January.
How did you get listings?
I'm sorry, not by March. I'm sorry. It was by March I had my license. So it was by graduation I was the top agent in my office.
But even so, how does an 18-year-old grow a real estate practice? I mean, I was working for minimum wage in a bar at 18.
Right. Well, but here's the thing. Like, I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to. Right. I didn't know that wasn't normal. And man, you want to talk about a bunch of pissed off middle-aged real estate agents. Oh my gosh, you should have seen those agents in my office. They just didn't think it was funny that an 18-year-old kid was not only getting more listings than them, but I was taking listings regularly at 8 and 10% commission, which wasn't normal back then. 7 was pretty normal back then. And I was getting them at 8 and 10% on houses, not land, just houses. And these agents were getting pissed. They're like, well, why should you get to charge 8 or 10%? Everybody else charged 7. Well, I just asked them if they'd pay me that, and they said yes. I mean, why not? I mean, why shouldn't I charge that?
Right.
And so I had a structured, I had a tiered program where they could go 7, 8, or 10%, and I had people choose different levels, and I gave them different levels of service and different levels of things that I would do for them for a different price, and it was up to them, and it worked. And then before long, I started charging a transaction fee. Started charging a $695 transaction fee. And I started getting that too. And before long, I was getting it on all my listings. And so my first year, I worked 100-hour weeks. And I'm telling you, it was killer. I was literally sleeping at the office 3 nights a week. I was curled up under my desk. This was before I worked from home. And it was terrible. It was terrible. But I was not going to fail. Right. And my parents, bless their hearts, they meant well. They're good parents. They just, as hard as I was working, and even though I was the top agent in my office, which sounds great, but all it meant was I was less broke than the other agents.
Sure.
So, I mean, this is an industry where $1 million producer means, I'm broke. Yeah. So that said, but we love to give ourselves awards for being broke.
Sure.
And so my parents were telling me, hey man, you need to go get a job. Like, this is ridiculous. You need to start making some money. And you should probably go just to work for McDonald's because you probably make more than what you're doing right now. And the scary thing is that they were right. If I would have gone to work for McDonald's, I would have made more money probably than I was making when it all shook out. But I was not going to let that happen. I was not going to fail. So I came to a crossroads in my life. I said, all right, I want to give back. Before I do this, I figured out I wanted to go serve a mission for the church. So I took 2 years off, went and served a mission for the church, came back, hired my first coach immediately when I got back.
Smart.
Yeah, well, and it was, it turns out it was smart. I don't know if it was smart or lucky. I think for me, it was more luck. I'd like to say it was well thought out, but I just needed help. And so I hired Mike Ferry back then.
Sure.
Back in the day, back when Mike was a young, spry 300 years old. I'm just joking. Mike. Listening to this, I love you, brother.
He's always been an old man. His whole life, he's been an old man.
I don't understand it. Like, this guy's the Energizer Bunny on steroids, right? And look, I got a lot of respect for Mike. Mike's done more for this industry than most people. I mean, he's incredible, and I don't think he really gets his due, quite honestly. I don't either. I don't either. I think, Mike was fantastic. So anyway, long story short, I worked with Mike, and I learned a couple of things. The one thing he taught me that was probably the most impactful was that if you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Right.
And so it taught me I needed to hire an assistant, and I didn't know how I was going to pay for this gal. I had a credit card. And I had enough room on my credit card to hire her, but I didn't have a clue how I was going to pay her long term. But I trusted my coach. He said, hire an assistant. I hired an assistant. Well, her name was Tara, and she came to work for me. And 4 years later, we got married, and that's when I went to work for her.
It's amazing.
So, right? I always tell people, any man that says he wears the pants in the family probably lies about other things too. So, anyway, that said, I also learned, he also taught me the importance of overcoming call reluctance. He taught me a lot about NLP, taught me, some real basics that I needed to know. But then I capped out, right? I got to a point in this program where I can only make so many calls, right? And frankly, I wasn't loving making all these calls.
Right.
I got to a point where just, making cold calls just wasn't doing it for me.
And that was a big thrust of what Mike would say is he'd go do the hard things that other agents won't do, like calling expireds, calling FSBOs, making those cold calls that nobody wants to make. And if you can get yourself to do it, you're going to have success, but it is a grind for sure.
Yes, that's right. Well, and Mike, and then you had Floyd, you had all those Sweat Hogs and all these guys, right? So then I hired Brian Buffini as my next coach.
Totally different approach.
100%. Yeah. But I didn't switch approaches. I augmented approaches, right? So I took what I learned from Mike and I added what I was learning from Brian, and I automated all of this stuff. I delegated as much as I could. Oh, first of all, I automated everything I could. Then I delegated what I couldn't automate. And I went through and I just eliminated anything that was unnecessary.
Right.
So as I did that, we started getting pretty good. And I took my business up to another level. And then I hired another coach. I mean, you name them, I've probably had them as my coach. If you recognize them as a big name coach, they've probably been my coach at some point. And I learned something from all of them. And I started realizing that to really run a successful business at scale, particularly, you can't just do one thing. You have to have all of these pieces, or at least a number of these pieces in your business, and they all make a difference. And so I figured out what that cocktail looked like for my business. And then part of it, all along the way, another thing that I did that I think really made a difference for me is I decided, when I was in high school, after about 6 months of these 100-hour weeks, I said, this is dumb. All these people are giving me advice. And I'm looking at these guys and I'm doing more business than them and they're giving me advice. Yeah. Like, are you kidding me? So one of our core values at ClubWealth is that if you want to climb to the top of Mount Everest, you need a guide who's been to the top of Mount Everest before.
You need a Sherpa who's actually done it before. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of times they got to know where the crevasses are. They got to know where the ladders are, where you can cross, where you can't cross. They got to know stuff or you're going to die. Right. And I don't want my business to die. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm not going to take advice from anybody that has not made at least $100,000 a year doing what I want to do. Sure. And then when I got to that point, I said, okay, well, that worked pretty well. Now I'm not going to take advice from anybody that makes less than $250 a year doing what I want. And I just kept ratcheting it up. And by the time I got to $1 million, now it's a pretty small group. Back then, especially. Today, a lot of agents make $1 million today. Back then, wasn't so.
Right.
And so it became a very small group, but it served me well. And so, combining that with all the coaching that I was getting, and one other thing that I would say was a huge component. Two. One was hiring the right people, and creating a culture that they wanted to be part of. Sure. And the next thing was putting myself in a financial position. So I kept my living expenses small, and I put myself in a very strong financial position so that when the market shifted, I'll use 2007 as an example. Sure. 2007, when the market shifted, I had 7 figures in the bank. Everybody else, and I was doing about 400 or 500 transactions a year.
Which is incredible. How big was your team back then?
16 agents. So it was good, but it wasn't where we could be, and it wasn't where we ended up. And what happened was in 2007, same thing happened in March of this year, by the way. Sure. In 2007, what everybody do? They started cutting off their lead sources because they were fearful. So they started canceling their lead sources, and I just started buying up all the best lead sources.
You doubled down.
Completely. And more than doubled down, way more than doubled down. But then they also started doing it with their staff, right? So you'd have all these people that had great assistants, but now they weren't making it because they cut off their leads. Now they couldn't afford their staff. So they started cutting back on their staff. And oh, by the way, because they didn't have the leads, now their agents were leaving them. And so I had my pick of all the best team members. I had my pick of all the best admin team members. And I just doubled down on all of it, knowing that I assumed I'd probably lose money that year. Oh my gosh, we didn't lose money even a single month that year. We crushed it because we just brought it all in.
You saw the opportunity where most people were struggling and who were exiting or cutting back because of the economy and where things were with the housing market. And they say that within crisis, opportunity is born, right? And
you just named it. Sun Tzu, you know who Sun Tzu is, right?
Sure.
The Art of War. The Sun Tzu quote is that where there's chaos, there's opportunity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what we did, like in March, let's go back to March of this year when COVID hit, right?
Sure.
Such a great example. Everybody starts freaking out. Oh my gosh, the sky is falling and what are we going to do? Dude, we went out to our clients and we said, buy everything you can. You get every lead source you can. You double down, and they're like, but what do we do? We can't be face-to-face, but then do it over Zoom. You do your listing appointments over Zoom. You do buyer appointments. You do everything you can remotely, but you double down on those lead sources. You double down on everything. And guess what? It worked. Over 80% of our clients have reported that they've had their best run, the last number I have is a 3-month window, but that 3-month window, they had their best 3 months of any 3 months in their career.
It's amazing. We have Zillow that is kind enough to come on every month and share insights. And they said when COVID hit, their numbers skyrocketed like they would have never predicted or seen. And they're already number one. And they said, we can't even tell you what the numbers are, but they said, it is so incredible. You wouldn't have believed it. And because everybody was at home, start looking around, looking at their 4 walls going, maybe this isn't good enough anymore. Maybe I need to upgrade. So.
But what's interesting, here's the thing that's really interesting about that, though. You look at Zillow and Realtor.com, and guess what they did during that time? They cut prices. Yeah. Realtor.com, as an example, did a 50% discount on a lot of their
Yeah.
I had one of my clients today, one of our coaches actually, super smart guy, Coach Craig Chastain, said that he decreased his spend by 30% and increased his monthly leads coming in by 25%.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's great ROI. I mean, that's how you make money. That's how you run a business, right?
Right.
And that's what's got to happen. So agents right now would be wise to start stockpiling money. If I could give anybody advice right now, there's 3 things I would tell you. 1, cut expenses. 2, stockpile cash. And 3, keep your foot on the gas. You do those 3 things, you're going to be dialed in.
Yeah. And also remembering that most agents, look, they are independent contractors. They are individual business owners, unless they're on a team, and they are susceptible to the same depression and challenges that the rest of the country is facing. And when the challenges hit and we're sitting around in our house because we're ordered to do that, it is very, very hard to stay focused and motivated. And I think that is where coaching really, really comes in. For somebody else to say, I hire a personal trainer, and it's not because I don't know how to exercise and I don't know what to do. I hire a trainer because I am not going to exercise without a personal trainer. I am embarrassed about that. I wish that wasn't the case, but the truth is I need to pay somebody to tell me to get on the floor and do some push-ups. And you know what? It's the best money I spend because it gets me to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And accountability is a piece of coaching. What's interesting though, is most coaching programs, that's the limit, right? That's right. Just accountability. It's how many calls did you make today? How many contacts? How many appointments did you set? That's not us, right? What we do is we look at it and we say, all right, look, how's your business doing? What's working? What's not working? Where do you want to be? What are you willing to do to get there? What aren't you willing to do to get there? Okay, let's build you a roadmap on, first of all, how to fix the problems in your business today. And then this is what you need to do moving forward. And we don't just say, go hire an assistant. We'd say, okay, listen, here's what you got to do. Here's the checklist for how to hire an assistant. Here's the ads that you run. Here's where you run the ads. Here's the questions you ask in the one-on-one interview, the group interview, and here's the job description when they come on board. Here's the contract you use when you hire them. Your coach walks you through it. We give you videos on how to do it. Your coach will even interview the last couple of people to make sure you're getting the right fit for your team. The key, though, is that you've got to have somebody who has been where you are and figured out how to get beyond to be able to do that with you. They got to know how to do it. And it's not enough. The accountability is important. And boy, you want to talk about accountability. Every once in a while in our Facebook group, you'll see we got about I think at the time we're recording this, we got about 35,000 people in our Facebook group. Not all of them are clients, of course, but a lot of them are. But we'll go in there and I'll tell one of my coaches or one of my clients, they'll make a commitment to me. They'll say, well, I'm going to do this. I'll say, okay, well, how committed are you to it? Oh, I'm really committed. I'm going to do it for sure. Really? No matter what? Yeah, I'm going to do it. By when? By Sunday. No matter what, you'll do it by this date. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. All right, good. Okay. Well, so then how much are you willing to bet that you would do that by that time?
Right.
Oh, I'll bet you $1,000. I said, look, I know what you make. Let's do $5,000.
Right. Let's make it to where it actually would hurt.
Right. Yeah. So let's make it $5,000. Oh, sure. I'll bet you $5,000. No problem. Okay, great. Then here's what I want you to do. I want you to go into our Facebook group. And I want you to post and tag me in the post, say, I will do X by such and such a date, or I will authorize ClubWealth to charge my card for $5,000 or whatever the number is. I've had them as high as $10,000. For $10,000, we'll say, if for some reason I don't do it, and they can spend the money however they want. And then they post that, and then we hold them accountable to their goal. But here's what I tell them at that point. I say, well, great. Now, privately, don't post this in the group, but privately, I want to know who your favorite political candidates are and who you really don't like.
Right. We're gonna donate to that guy.
That's exactly what we'll do. And so we'll say, if you absolutely hate this particular candidate, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take the money, I'm gonna donate it to that candidate in your name. I'm gonna give them your contact information and cell phone number, and I'm gonna say, please continue to contact me in the future because I'm super excited about your worthy cause and I plan to contribute on an ongoing basis.
I love it.
Let me tell you, I've never had to take anybody's money yet. They always follow through.
Sure.
Every time.
Well, I think it's so important, so I'm a recruiter, right? So people listening, they're mostly agents. I'm a recruiter. I have a hero in this business. His name is Long Doan. And it just so happens, and this is completely coincidental, that Long is one of Michael's coaches at ClubWealth. Long is, and we have 100% company. We have 700 agents. Long actually has fewer agents than us, but his agents do about 10 times the amount of production as our agents. And so Long has figured out how to do what I do much better than I can do it. And so for me, if I were to hire a coach, it would be him because he's already done what I've done, where he's recruited hundreds and hundreds of agents. And at one point he finally said, it's better to have fewer agents who do more deals. And he figured out how to do that. And so I'm friendly with Long. He's a wonderful guy. That's who I would hire as my coach because he's the only guy I know just about that has done what I have done and then has gotten way beyond me. And so you're absolutely right about coaches. Most of them haven't practiced before. Most of them haven't been out in production, and your coaches have. And I also want to say too that I was recently, it was a huge honor of mine to be able to present for ClubWealth at a recent 2-day event they had earlier this month. And I really want everybody to go sign up at ClubWealth and take advantage of some of their programming, their coaching. They're incredible. I have spoken at a lot of events. I have never, and this is the truth, I've never had a more professional experience. The support team that you had on hand to handle hundreds and hundreds of attendees were incredible. And the speakers were the best I've ever seen in a 2-day event. It really was that amazing. So I really wanted to, number one, thank you for letting me do that, but also to really honor you for the community you've built and the coaching staff you've built and the speakers. It's really remarkable.
I appreciate that a lot. Thank you very much, man. You did a fantastic job. We got great feedback on your session. So thank you for doing that. You were talking about Long. Mike, so Long and Mike are their partners in RG, and I'm blessed I get to be their coach. They're wonderful people. I get to work with them all the time, and both of them happen to be coaches with ClubWealth. Very different personality types. So
very different, yeah.
Right, but that's important because you want to have a coach who's got success, but the personality types also got to match, right?
Sure.
And so we've got 75, 80 coaches right now. But Mike and Long are a great example. When we started working together, they had 77 agents in their brokerage. Every year since that year, they have recruited at least 200 agents to their brokerage.
Yeah.
And they have top graded like crazy. Now I'm sharing this phrase top grading because that's the secret to what you're looking to accomplish. There's two things. One, the broker's got to embrace teams. You got to understand the value of teams. You got to embrace teams. Two, you got to understand top grading. We call it addition through subtraction, right? So sometimes you get that knucklehead in your company that's just a problem, right? They're drama, they're chaos, they're a cancer. Yeah. You got to cut them out. And you got to do it quickly. And when you do, the good ones are happy that you did. You'll lose a couple of others, but those are probably also people that aren't a great fit for you, and that's okay. So you got to be willing to let go of some people that aren't the right fit. But when you do that, and I'm sure you're doing that already in your business, I'm sharing this because I want everybody to hear this, that is too often, well, let's back up. You have to be willing to let go of the top producer in your company if they're a cancer.
Or if you're an agent, you have to be willing to let go of that listing that isn't going to budge on price and is wildly, off their mark about what their home is worth. You have to be willing to walk away from that because you're going to lose it anyway.
So I'll be honest with you. You're going to hate me. I don't know. You might hate me for this or not. I'd keep that listing all day long. And I'll tell you why. So when I had 750 listings, I guarantee we had 150 of those that were never going to sell. No way.
Okay.
But guess how many sign calls I got on those listings?
There you go. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We made so much money on the sign calls from those. And we were very upfront and honest with those people about, hey, look, this is where we think it should be priced. We'll do it at your price. We'll market it just like we do everything else. We'll put all the time, effort, energy, and attention into it, and we'll make money on it. But I want to know, if you want to make money on it, we need it to be priced right. But you choose. What would you like to do? And if they say, well, I want to price my $400,000 house at $750,000, I say, fantastic, sign here. We get it listed. And man, I'm getting 1 to 2 sign calls per week per listing. You add that up. When I had 750 listings, we were literally getting 6,352 sign calls a month.
Wow. But that's also assuming you have a structure in place, and you did, where you could take those inbound calls and realize the value of those calls. Most agents haven't figured that out. They just look and they go, oh, I'm getting these calls. These people they're not going to buy this overpriced property. And they don't realize each one of those phone calls is an opportunity to create another client relationship. So you're absolutely right.
Well, you nailed it, DJ. It's just like with an open house, right? When someone comes to an open house, I don't care if they buy that house.
They're never, most of them are never going to buy that house. Yeah.
Right, just buy from me. I don't care what you buy. My job's to help you get what you want. I don't care what that is. As long as you're happy with it, I don't have to like the house. It doesn't have to be my listing. Let me just sell you what you want, and we'll both be happy.
Yeah.